All right, thank you so much, everybody. We're here with Carol O'Dowd, and Carol's going to be doing our presentation for us in December. I wanted to let you know, as we're going through and having this conversation, with CAP, we really want to make sure that we are encouraging people to participate, encouraging people to participate in the education programs, as well as making sure your membership is current. You can always donate to the organization as well. Um, but I really wanted to get a moment and talk with Carol just to make sure that we understood what she was going to be presenting this time as we start going through this process. So, Carol, first of all, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Um, yes, I've been practicing as a in therapy um, for at least 15 years, if not more. My background first, I started with career in government. So I've served as a city manager of three different cities. And what happened to me was I lost my mother, my favorite aunt, and my father within 3 years. And that put me on a spiritual path. And so I left after I was a city manager. I was still working in government, but as a consultant. But I stopped it with this spiritual journey I went on, and I became an ordained Buddhist priest and acquired my own temple, which is what's led me to psychotherapy because so many people were coming to the temple with such needs. I went and got a Master's of Divinity, which included 30 graduate credit hours in counseling, to make sure I took care of clients. And that was my passion. So I ended up leaving the priest, being a minister, and focused on just the therapy side, which is what I've been doing. So
Awesome.
that's
That's kind
my
of a
back.
like ooh,
So,
that little route, and like however life takes you, so you end up in this really cool place.
right,
So
right.
you're gonna be talking to us about elders, and so you're gonna talk about accessing superpowers. So can you explain what that means?
Sure. I might let you know how I uh, realized that what I was really talking about was superpowers is because my grandson reintroduced me to the superheroes because I would sit and read with him the comic books. His favorite was Spider-Man. And given his fascination, the more I read about these superheroes, what I began to realize is these superheroes are really reflections of human beings. We all have superpowers. And then what happened was, in looking in the dictionary under the term old, one of the synonyms is decrepit, and I thought that does it. Especially listening to people say they give up because they're old. I thought that has to stop. So I started working on a book, which will be coming out this in next year, um, talking about superpowers that we can all access because our superpowers are the inner resources that you can tap to achieve your goodness and greatness.
Nice. So you're really looking at kind of empowering elders, people that are older. I mean, how do you define when you define an elder? How are you defining the elder? What does that mean?
The way society does, 55 and over.
Okay. Yay. That's me. Okay. So talk to me about one or two superpowers that people don't realize they actually get when they get older.
Well, and what people tend to think of as powerful is being able to throw a punch, picking up and lifting something great, I mean, heavy. But actually, what it is, and especially sort of two powers I'll talk about, especially elders possess, is empathy and an aspect of awareness, acceptance. Because with empathy, as an elder, what you can do often, especially with young people, is smile and go, been there, done that. and be able to share and provide guidance based on your experience. And then through time, we all learn that with awareness, allow allows you this aspect of awareness is the simple practice of acceptance. And acceptance is not approval. Acceptance is, okay, this is happening. As we get older, we've been through enough, it's easier in situations to go, oh, okay, yeah, I'll wait. After they're angry, I'll say something. Or we're even really smart and go, I'll just let them rant on and I'm going to go get an ice cream. We don't have to respond. So as elders, we become a little bit more aware of when we have a choice and it's our choice how to respond.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said about letting people figure things out for themselves. I mean, when you're doing the coaching, you're saying, "Hey, you're smart. I'm going to be here to support you, but you're going to go ahead and figure this out, and I'm going to support you in figuring it out, rather than I'm going to give you the answer." So it's a different way of kind of approaching things with people, so that you don't end up taking a deeper dive down that. Um,
Well, it's meeting them where they are and then saying, reminding them that it's their choice
yeah, because there's
of
a lot
how
of
they
choice.
want to respond.
And it's somebody else's mistake to make too. They can make mistakes. It's allowed.
Right.
We did it.
Well,
You know,
mistakes are jewels.
yeah.
That's if you don't make it, you show me somebody who's not making a mistake, you're going to show me somebody who's in a rote process. They're not they're not learning anything.
Or
We learn
they're
from our
not out there doing
mistakes.
anything.
Right.
Yeah. So there's that, there's such great elements that come with being, um, you know, being, we call ourselves elders, to be an elder. Um,
Yes.
yeah. So talk to me about culture. How does culture kind of play into this?
Well, culture tends to define um, who is elder and what I refer to as elderific, because being an elder as I spent a lot of time in Asia, many Asian cultures, elders are revered and highly respected. Whereas in the culture here in the United States, too often, oh, well, you're too old for that. And people believe it and embrace it. And that's what, as a therapist working with elders, is reminding them that age is a number.
Mhm.
It's not a definition and it's not who you are. Um, there's some pretty amazing examples of what's the term for people who are 100 and over that are out doing things.
Yeah.
Um, and if you but so it's unfortunately a lot of times, like I said, in the Asian, the culture supports elders. In our culture, what we have to recognize is when is somebody using ageism as an excuse, whether it's ourself or we're listening to somebody else. But making a conscious choice and being aware of what the culture is telling us.
Yeah, because there's definitely there's gifts in being older. I mean, there's
Yeah.
certainly for me letting go of a lot of the expectations I had when I was younger, or putting myself under a lot of pressure to be a certain way or look a certain way, and I'm like, now I'm like,
Yeah. And it's different for each person.
yes, yes. So talk to me about this. So you kind of talked about, people realizing what they have. Have you ever seen an elder kind of using a superpower in like a surprising
Oh,
way?
yeah. It happened especially one of the most dramatic examples was when I was a chaplain and there was a elder and he was given a prognosis. It was in ICU and basically they were advising he and his family that he wasn't going to make it, right? And I was in the hospital and I get this phone call and they tell me to come up to his room in the ICU because both sides of his family were arriving. And they said the last time they were here, they were fighting and throwing things. And I was like, oh, good grief, this is going to be interesting. So I walk up to this, and it was a small hospital. So when the elevator doors opened, I could see where his room was. And I walked over to it, but I stopped at the doorway because there were like three people on each side of his bed, the two sides of the family. But as I listened, the man was sharing a story, which, all families have some funny thing that happened that was embarrassing, but it caused people to laugh.
Yeah.
And he was putting smiles on everybody's face, and they were just standing there. And this nurse comes running up with a hypodermic needle ready to give this guy a shot of morphine. And I stopped her and she says, "What's wrong with you? Can't you see he's in pain? He's crying." And I looked at her and I said, "No, you can't go in there. Can't you see what he's doing?" The man was healing his family with his dying breath. It was amazing.
Yeah. Amazing.
And that is the superpower.
Yeah.
He had empathy. He was using the power of relationships and awareness that he knew if he had morphine, he wouldn't be awake enough to deal with the issue the way he wanted to.
And there's choices in that in those moments as well. Like, hey, I
Yeah,
don't want that at this moment. So
right.
I appreciate that you're trying to keep me out of pain, but sometimes pain needs to be there.
Yep.
Um, and then how about your own journey? What are some of the superpowers you've noticed in your own journey?
Um, in my journey, um, it's more a matter of, let's see, how would I phrase that? Um, it's dealing with really difficult situations and tapping into the inner power of making conscious choices about how to connect. So at times, for example, when I was in Indonesia, our son had married into a indigenous Balinese family, um, trying to be helpful to the woman that was dying. It was fascinating being able to just be present, not say a word, not speak, and at that time, even in that situation, know that that was helpful. So it's stay keeping open, staying open, maintaining that open heart, even when it's kind of scary or you don't know what's going on, or I didn't know really what was going on. But as human beings, it's fascinating how we can connect.
Yeah, and on levels that we can't necessarily see visually. So,
Right.
so when you're talking through this and you're creating your book and you mentioned to me that you were kind of creating your book with the intention of it being more like something that someone's going to work through. Can you talk to me about how you, as a therapist, or as how you help somebody kind of grab those superpowers and become a little bit more in touch with them?
It's taking the time to basically, typical of therapists, listen and be, but listen to what they're saying as well as their body and what's happening in their world. And listening in a way that you can just, as you said, not tell them, but encourage them to explore opportunities. I have several practices that they can, uh, my book outlines. And it's not that you go through them sequentially or whatever, but it's, for example, explore your guiding beliefs. Take the time to question what guides me. And were some beliefs put in me when I was young that I automatically do?
Right.
Or I automatically judge people based on what my parents told me or my grandparents told me to think.
Well, the truth is, if we don't have another way, we haven't learned a different way of doing things, we're going to continue to repeat what our families did before us. So being intentional about making sure that we're clear about what those were and deciding if that works for us or not.
Right,
Being
right.
consistent
Making
with
a
those.
conscious choice. Yeah, this belief is one that I'm going to use. Another way to do it is to just practice being open. And rather than jumping to judgment or leaping to assumptions that you've carried around, just be curious, which creates the space to identify opportunities, new ways of using things, new ways of doing things with old materials. Oh, this will work. And the big power, it's not a power, but a practice that allows you to use your powers is accept who you are as you are.
Yeah.
Just be who you are, because that sometimes can make a huge difference. Back to again, the man who was helping his family, putting smiles. And we all have seen it sometimes when a kid is trying to cross the street, you grab them, but then you get them to laugh, right?
Right.
And wow, it changes the day.
Yeah, that could be such a gift, that ability just to shift to somebody's emotion
And
from one moment
that's
to the next by just
superpower.
interaction. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, right.
So when we look at people as they're aging,
Hmm.
you mentioned earlier kind of this idea of what culture kind of has to say, but how do people underestimate themselves as they age?
Well, they've bought into a message, and they sort of believe, well, I'm just old. And they tend not to see and look at what's happening out in the world. Because and it's sort of exciting, if you pick up the paper, you frequently discover, I mean, I was reading, gosh, it was in the National Park Service, and I forget the company, but they have these 90-year-old women who don't want to quit work and are still working. And then I can't remember his name. This happened back in 2020. There was a pilot who had served in World War II, and he had actually flown what's called a Spitfire. It's a unique type of aircraft, military aircraft. And he and his buddy had formed a nonprofit to use airplanes to deliver food to remote villages in Africa and other places. Um, and after his friend died, he really wanted to honor him. So what he did was he got into the cockpit of a Spitfire at the age of 102.
Wow.
Now, a young pilot sat behind him who never touched anything because he was in awe of this pilot who it was a 20-minute flight from one town in England to another. And he was doing acrobatics with the airplane, and the crowds were going nuts at 102.
So I think there's expectations about what it's supposed to look like. And I can tell you, when
Right,
my grandparents were my age, they didn't look anything like me.
right.
And my parents have both aged really well, and the
Mhm.
expectation of what they're supposed to be able to achieve, um, definitely hasn't uh, doesn't look the same way. So as we talk about, creating new expectations about what looking older looks like. Talk about this session that we're going to be creating, and what you think would be beneficial to most people in terms of attending that session.
Coming with an open heart and sharing and being open to meeting a superhero, and that the superheroes include us.
Mhm.
So it's sharing ways to age and ways to practice this open heart and access your inner power to deal with the world in a way that benefits you and others.
Cool. And if and people that are going to be attending this, how
Mhm.
are you going? Talked about how you're going to present it or how what they're going to walk away with. in terms of information that they can use in their own practice or
Well, I'm going to share techniques used and some of these practices that I'm going to be sharing in the book. So they can sign up to get the book. And yeah, so they'll have 14 practices they can use.
good. And just real briefly, can you give me sort of some of the chapter headings that you're going to have in your book so that we have a sense about what's going to be covered in there?
Sure. The first one, which explains the superpowers that we all possess, is be elderific. So it's basically stop, look, and listen, make conscious choices, increase awareness, connect with what helps, explore your guiding beliefs, identify opportunities, recharge your powers, define goals, move forward, share appreciation, accept who you are, hold a lighthearted attitude. And this one I love, always remember to play and be great.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds great. All right. So, anything else you want to share with people about the presentation that we have coming up?
No, I just look forward to you bringing your powers and accessing them.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Carol, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All
You are
right.
wonderful.
Thanks.